We've actually also just casually moved. Hi, Tom. We've casually moved into our intermediate session. So stay or run away. I don't know. It's up to you. Dun, dun, dun. Level up. But I encourage you guys to stay. Hey, Tom. So, 6 quavers in a bar. I'm going to up the ante a little bit, but please feel free to let me know if you have any questions. So I've got 6 quavers in a bar. I've got my key signatures here. When I look at the last sharp, I have to raise it by a semitone. So that's how I find the key that I'm in. So I've got an F sharp and a C sharp. I raise the C sharp by a semitone. C sharp, raise it to a semitone. Now I'm in D major. Cool. But the beginning note is on a B, which means I'm in the relative minor of D major, which is B minor.
Wait, what did you just say? Relative. See, you just repeat that.
Relative minor.
Okay, yes, gotcha.
Yeah, relative minor. She's like, I'm out.
You spoke so quickly. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. I just sort of just turn the cog a little bit quicker and just up the settings. But in order to find the key signature, do you understand that? To find D major, we take the last sharp in the list, which is a C sharp, raise it by semitone. Always that with sharps.
Oh, so always with sharps, it's just the semitone below it.
Semitone above it.
Above it, sorry.
Yep. But yeah, the last sharp in the list. I'll try pull up some other songs. With flats, it's a bit different, but I'll show you a trick for that a bit later.
Raise it.
But yeah, with sharps, A major, the last sharp in the key is going to be G sharp, so you just raise that by semitone. The reason I'm concerned about the tonality of this piece, and when I talk about tonality, it's referring to major and minor, is that the key signature says it's in D major, but the starting note begins on a B, which indicates to me that the song is in the tonality of a minor rather than a major. Okay, the note doesn't start on a D, it starts on a B. Okay, so this is relative minors, yeah? So D major. And every major key has a relative minor that's built on a minor third beneath it, okay? In other words, it's built on the 6th degree of the major scale. Okay, 6th degree of D major is B. So if you play a D major scale but begin at B and end on B, you will have the relative minor of D major. How you guys doing with that?
G.
So, yeah.
Yeah?
6th degree is the relative minor.
Yeah. That's it.
Why is it good to know that?
Say that one more time, sorry.
Why is it good to know that for
many reasons. Firstly, most of my reasons are going to fall into like how to interpret music. It's more just an understanding of before you launch into the piece, you have a bit of an idea of the feeling of the piece. You know that it's not going to be sort of a major kind of feel. And this is a little bit me talking as a musical director, you know, so I'm actually going to look at a piece and assess it before I actually even play it. It also tells me a little bit about the first bar, rather than having to sort of think, okay, B, D, F, sharp, G. I sort of go, the first 3 notes are B minor. Okay, so that's the kind of world that I'm in. All right. It's an interesting question because at the end of the day, you'll have to sort of find the relevance in your own sort of practice. But I think it's a good idea to know exactly what tonality you're working in. Because then we'll get
like general question, general rule of thumb, is it like if like the first note is an indication of the key, like it'll always be like the what is it, the first note of, I can't remember what it's called, but yes,
the tonic is that what you're referring to?
Yeah,
I've just lost my page. So correct. So the tonality of a piece, if the tonic is a different note, then it'll sound a bit different. And I'll sort of elaborate on that a little bit. The interesting thing to note is that when we put a bunch of notes in a specific order, they create a specific sound. Okay, So we've got our major scale. Those notes, when placed in that specific order, we just take it for granted. It's very much in our subconscious. When they're in that order, they create our major tonality sound. And so one sort of important take-home message is to know that even if we use the same notes, but start on a different note, but use the same ingredients, we can change the pattern and actually change the feel of a song, even though we're using the same notes. So that's a further point on knowing that actually the relationship between the notes create the sound. Okay, so my relationship between the first 3 notes, that relationship instantly creates a major tonality kind of soundscape or orienting of the ear. But this song begins on B. Instantly, I'm in a minor world. Okay, so this is going into like, we sort of touched on modes last week for a very split, brief second. Let's talk about the theory of this piece for a little bit longer. So we've got repeat. These, when we see sort of a thicker bar line with dots, okay, they're stipulating that those bars are repeated. So we've got a repeat from bar 1 to bar 4. So you'll hear that introduction twice. So it's important when marking up sheet music. So you're going into an audition, you don't want that to be there, just to simply give it a bit of a cross out. And most likely you're not going to want it to be there. Everyone clear with that? Or on that? Yep. So we've picked apart our key signature. We understand our time signature. We've got our bar numbers. We've got repeats. We've got our dynamics now, mezzo forte, okay, which is pretty much in the middle. That's your mid-range dynamic. Okay, so it's not going to be too loud, but it's not going to be too soft. It's going to be just right. Cool. Happy chaps?
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got vocal second time only, and that's the scores indicating that. And then we've got a decrescendo. Okay, or diminuendo. Yep. Then we move to a piano dynamic, so it's going to instantly get softer. Let's talk about how we might actually pick apart this rhythm, shall we? So first and foremost, we need to subdivide the bar into 6 parts because the time signature is 6/8. I need to have 6 even quavers. So somewhere along the music, I'm just going to write 6 quavers to show how they line up. And when this is the sort of incorrect way of writing it, but they can also be in 6/8. The quavers are generally joined by a beam at the top. Okay, they're still quavers though. Yeah, duck 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 duck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now all I want to do is work out exactly how each melody note lines up with those beats. So I've got my first quaver. They line up. A second quaver, that lines up, good. Third quaver, that lines up. This guy, I'm going to come back to it. This one, I'm going to come back to it. This one lines up. So I can already see that this rhythm is 4 of the notes actually line up on the quavers. Saved every 1, 2, you. So saved every you, because we haven't worked out the other rhythm, but I'm sure you all know how it goes. I know that the word, the first syllable of letter, does occur on the beat. So it's going to go saved every you. Okay. But I need to work out how to work out this dotted rhythm. All right. So who can remind me how the dotted rhythms work?
It adds a half.
Half of its current value. Yeah, exactly. Hi, Katie. So we're just looking at some rhythms, Katie. Feel free to just join in on the ride. So it adds half of its current value. Okay, so when I subdivide a bar, I have to divide it down to its smallest value. So if this melody was just quavers, I'd be sorted. I'd be like, that's it. That's the end of that story. But because it goes down into a semiquaver, okay, I have to subdivide even further, which means that I need to have a good understanding of how these quavers divide into 2 notes. So just bear with me. So, because you can subdivide infinitely, okay? You can even go further and further again. So already we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm going to divide it even further by going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 in. Okay? Jika, 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 jika. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 in. Any questions on that? So I'm just dividing it as far down to the lowest note that I can. Now that I've got that 16th note, I can start to divide beat 5 a little bit easier, and I'll just label that for you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and. The thing is, the more you do this, the easier it will get. You won't have to do it to such a granular detail. But it's important to have a process, so yeah, have an understanding. So let's look at that dotted quaver. So firstly, a quaver exists for 2 semiquavers, and when I add half of it, how many semiquavers will it last for?
2.5. No, wait. 1. Wait.
What's the question?
How many semiquavers will be included in the dotted quaver?
3.
3, yeah. So my quaver, just as plain as day, is 2 semiquavers. And then when I add half of that note, all I'm doing is just adding another 16th note or adding another semiquaver. Okay? So right now, my dotted quaver lasts for 3 semiquavers. And this is where it sort of gets a bit more relevant. So I'm going to see how the word you already lines up with that last quaver, 6 and. Okay, it's going to get a little bit messy for a second. Just bear with me. The second syllable of firstly, I'll go back to let, the first syllable. The first syllable lasts for 1 semiquaver. Great, no issues there. That's going to be on 4. Now, if it was a quaver, it'd be on 4 and, but it's just going to be on 4, okay? Which means that I need to fill out the rest of the bar with the second syllable of letter. And it's going to last for 3 semiquavers because it's a dotted quaver. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3. Now, I did make something that's probably a lot simpler sound a lot more complex, I reckon. But if I break this down now, so I've got a quaver, 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 semiquaver, something that's worth 3 semiquavers, and then a quaver. Ooh, and then that happens. So I got to think about the way that bar's divided. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Sorry, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 and 6 and. So the first part of the bar is going to be 1, 2, 3. Saved every. The second part of the bar is going to be 4 and 5 and. 4 and 5 and. So the emphasis of ter is on the and of 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and. So le is going to be on 4 and ter is going to be on the and of 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 6. I feel like I sort of taught that a little bit complicated, but please let me know if you have any questions.
No, that's good.
Yeah, it's sort of a long route to work out 6/8, but 6/8 can be, firstly, 6/8 tunes that are in 6/8 are going to be, you'll be confronted with them a lot as performers, just because they're generally songs of heightened emotion. They're generally like, lots of emotion and affectation in them, and they're generally quite actory kind of dialogue-y pieces because we tend to speak in sort of threes or in sort of like a sort of a waltz fashion. So a lot of tunes that you will come across will be in 6/8. That have like an emotional kind of undertone. This is Safer from First Date. Again, 6/8. It's already got writing on it. All right, friends, you kind of still with me? Good. Awesome. So let's look at this rhythm. This is in 6/8. I want to find the quavers first. Okay. I hate that. I'm going to get rid of it. Find the quavers first. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, 6. And the reason I go 2 and is because this semiquaver, these groups of semiquavers last for 2 and. 1 and, I in bracket because the and is implied. 3 and, 4 and, 5 and, 6 and. So I'm going to go 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, 6. So when I date some new. Rest, quaver rest. Rest. So when I date some new, and it's important in the 6/8 time signature that you have a good understanding that beats 1 and 4 are generally the more emphasized beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 is just slightly more emphasized than 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1. So when, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6. 1. So when I date some new. Yeah. Now, as an actor, though, or sort of when you're realizing text, it's important not to sort of. It's important to find the natural inflection in the text rather than sort of hit it super duper hard like a musician would. Any questions so far? No. Okay. Would you like to? Is there anything that like? I'm very happy to kind of move in a completely different direction if you guys would like. Is there any questions sort of like just sort of rattling in your brain at the moment? Any things that you're wanting solved? Ponderings, curiosities? I'll keep talking. Elintra, if you're talking, your mic's muted.
Sorry, I forget when it's muted or not. Just looking at that chord prior that A flat sus2.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
You want me to unpick it?
I'm gonna pick that. I'm gonna pick your brain.
Yeah.
So A flat.
All right, let's talk about sus chords for a second. We touched on it last week, but I think it's important to because we're talking in a key that's a little bit less familiar. So A flat. Firstly, I want to find my A flat major chord. Scale degree 1, scale degree 3, scale degree 5. We're in happy chaps with that. A major. When I suspend the 2, it means that I move scale degree 3 to scale degree 2. Actually move it. So I go scale degree 3, I'm going to change it to scale degree 2. There's my A flat sus2.
Yeah.
Sus is short for suspended. So it actually eventually wants to navigate back to the 3. You get this suspended sound. Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
So sus2 is made up of 1, 2, and 5. A flat sus2 over D flat, as you can imagine. A flat sus2 over D flat. Bam.
Okay, that's it. So it's just D flat on the bottom. There's no like extra.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. It looks more complicated than it is.
Does it look scary?
It looks scary. Yeah. Hence when we can actually just break it down and be like, A flat, sus2, D flat. Okay, cool. In fact, in a lot of contemporary music, hi Olivia, by the way. In a lot of contemporary music, we'll see this. We'll see this sort of move between the 1, 1, 4, 1, 4, you know, but keep the same 1 chord. So there's my 1 chord, and then I move to the 4 degree in my left hand.
Right, say that again. The 4th degree on the bottom, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so you keep
so
saying.
It's still, I guess my take-home point is, because I'd like to sort of eventually move into chord degrees. So we've already built our scale degrees, but understanding what a 1 chord is and what a 4 chord is and what a 5 chord is, which we'll get there eventually. But right now, a 1 chord is the tonic, it's home bass, okay? And we're in the key of A flat. So when I see an A flat chord, it's the chord built on the scale degree 1, which means that it's in the place of least tension. It's most released. It's relaxed. It's finding home base. Tonality wise, we know we're in A flat, but then I said there's scale degree 1. Sorry, there's the 1 chord, but on the 4th degree note. So it's still the same 1 chord, but I'm taking the 4th degree from the scale to create a little bit more tension. But it's still the same one chord, still an A flat sus2. Rather than, it's not a pure D flat. It's not like, it's not exactly a D flat chord. Though you'd think, because it's on a D flat bass, that it is a bit of a D flat chord, but it's actually an A flat chord with a D flat in the left hand. Just like that. E flat 5. If we recall from last week, 5 chord is just 1 and 5.
Oh, so you don't play the third at all?
No third.
Oh.
Get rid of it. Not interested. You'll notice in the melody here, though, and this, again, this is super good to have an understanding of where you fit into the chord. The melody is a G. So it's good to understand that you sing the third and the accompanist's not going to help you. Yeah? So the chord is only for the accompaniment. Yeah.
So that's intentional, obviously, so because you're singing the third, you don't want to play it.
Correct. And the composer's just written it that way, for whatever reason, just to make life a bit more interesting. D flat sus2. D flat chord. Let's work out a D flat major. Okay, you're probably least familiar with D flat major at the moment, but still try work on it if you can. D flat, 1, 3, 5. Suspend the third by going to the 2. Great. 1, 2, 5. Bam. All of a sudden, a song that's built around sus2s becomes very contemporary. So Pasek and Paul, and lots of new musical theatre sort of stuff. I'm sure you've heard similar stuff to that, except that progression was a bit strange. F minor 7. F minor. Minor 7. This is my major 7, but I want to flatten it. F minor 7. Do I want to add the 11? Is anyone curious about the 11? What's that about?
7 is a lot of counting.
Say again?
I said the 11's a lot of counting.
It's a louder count.
But the 9 is the second, so it's really the fourth. Really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nice. Exactly. You just kind of cheat your way there. It's honestly. So F major. I just want to work it out from the F major because it's the same thing. So that's the 4th. It's also the 11. And because it's an 11, it implies that the 7 is already there, and the chord symbol actually says that the 7's there, so we're having a good time. So I'm going to build my F minor 7. Basically, when you have an 11 or a 9, it also means that try not to bury the note in the middle of the chord, although it does it for this, so it was a bad example. So there's my F minor 7. There's my 11.
So you're saying you can always play the 11 up the top? You can never put it in like
generally, it's an interesting one because it's like it's not exactly that you don't play it up the top, because there are certain voicings that do warrant that you like. For this, they could have just said F minor 7, add 4 potentially. The minor chords, as soon as you add 11s and 9s, they become super ambiguous. It depends on the context and the style of the song, how you approach them. And it's a bit of a
reach that note. Like I'm like can't even like my finger doesn't even reach.
So that's where voicings come in. If I was going F minor 11, I didn't really I wanted to voice lead with the B flat at the top. I'd go thumb on the A flat, second finger on the E flat. I'd double the third just because I want to, and then I'd put the pinky on the B flat, and then I'd use my left hand to play an F. So eventually, once you start to familiarize yourself with scale degrees more and more, it means that when you find a voicing, and when I say voicing, like a chord shape or something that you really like, I can start to say, okay, so a nice minor 7 or minor 11 chord shape is a minor third, flattened third, flattened 7, flattened third, and an 11. And then you can actually go to any key and then find that chord shape. Okay, sort of this is a bit more complex. Let's look at the shape of this accompaniment. This accompaniment actually got the 11 on the bottom, so hence why I was like, that works too. So the B flat on the bottom, the 7, and the 3rd. And that's a very classic voicing. It's built in fourths. That's a 4th, and that's a 4th. So I've got my F minor 11. All right, friends, any questions? You got a few more minutes, so this is your chance to ask all those burning questions you got about life and theory.
Not a question about what we've just been talking about, but would we be able to next time like clap through the whole rhythm of this whole, I don't know if that's too much to ask for, but something that's so speechy like this, just to like clap through to see if we've got it all right. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah, I was actually going over this. I think it'd be brilliant.
Because I think I'm like pretty sure, but there's just certain things I'm like, oh, I just don't know if that lands on that, you know, the half notes and stuff, the quavers. That's where I get like a bit. I'm not sure. But it'll be helpful if that helps everyone.
Maybe we'll do this. We'll touch on it Wednesday. Alternatively, depends on who's joining us tomorrow at 12. I can touch on it then as well. Also, I think there's a slight more difficulty involved breaking down rhythms from a song that's into 6/8. But I think that's okay. I think it'll actually challenge you to break down rhythms in other songs that are in less complicated time signatures. But predominantly a song like this that has so many 16th notes and that sort of undulating folk kind of dim taka taka dim taka taka dim taka taka dim, which is this kind of so you've got bars that are clearly split into semiquavers. So you want to know exactly how to do the rhythm. And of course, from a speech perspective, you really want to have a good understanding of, I know that I have issues, I face them, I swear. You know, even just musically, you go, okay, cool. All right, I know that I have issues, I face them, I swear. You know, then you can start to relax it. You say, okay, cool, where's the emphasis? Okay, so quaver rest. Think I overcome them, then... Think I overcome them, then turn, they're still there. You know, then you start to observe like 2 notes on the word still. You've got a slur on the note still. There's a bit more emphasis on the word still due to the way it's written. You don't have to work too much harder to find that emphasis, but it's still there. Pardon the pun. So you, as an actor, it can really start to inform you as to maybe what's more important here. And then when you're pulling apart something that's in 6/8, having a good understanding of what falls on top of the beat. What falls on the strong beat. So, think I overcome them, then turn, they're still there. 1, wish that I was different, I'd like to let go. Yeah, as opposed to I'd like to let go. A lot of people would sort of backphrase that, and which is fine, but maybe there's a bit of merit in actually finding what does it feel like to go, like to let go. You know? But when I try to change, there's my past saying no. So already we start to get change past no. We start to get really strong words on the strong beats. And they act as anchors, because a lot of people who approach a song like this, as you can imagine, they add space where space is just not there, you know. We get, I know that I have issues, I face them, I swear, you know, and then we just drop the ball. Think I overcome them, then turn, they're still there. You're just like, let's keep going, you know, because the breath is clearly indicated, and it says poco rubato. It's actually not. It's not con la voce. You know, the timing is actually not completely free. It just has a feeling of rob time from. Anyway, I'm going a bit of a tangent, but I would love to touch on this a bit more because I think this piece has a lot to deliver. That brings us to the end of our session. Any questions that anyone would like to ask? Happy with how we moved today?
Yeah. Oh, the only question I do have.
Got a bit dark. Yep.
Just looking at you know how you can call on the I'll do the circle of fifths. When you get down to the like F sharp and the G flat, how do you know which one you should choose, or is that just determined on the piece?
Determined on the piece. Okay. Yeah. A lot, like for example, a lot of Legally Blonde is written in F sharp major, And I theorize that it's also to do with the brightness of the key. And this is just my understanding of the relationship between the key. I know this might not make sense right now, but different instruments will approach an F sharp differently to approaching a G flat. Whereas a lot of romantic pieces, a lot of darker and more emotive pieces will be in a flattened key. Also, commonly, you'll find pieces generally written in G flat rather than F sharp. So if it's written in F sharp, in my mind, it has a very specific reason as to why it is.
It's easier to
so when it's in
flats?
It's easy to read. Yeah, it's easy to read. There are less flats than there are sharps. So when you're in F sharp, you actually have to sharpen the B and you have to sharpen the E. Whereas when you're... All right, is that true? No. You just have to sharpen the E. But if I'm in G flat... Actually, I think there's more flats.
Well, that one's got...
Maybe there's an even amount.
Are you in...
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think there's 7 sharps in F sharp.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head. And 6 flats. 6 flats in G flat. So look, for ease of reading, generally go with the one that's less, that has less accidentals.
Yeah.
Once you start to get into tuning, you'll be like, oh, I want the openness of an F sharp major rather than the darkness of a G flat major. But that's a conversation for another day.
Thank you.
That's all right, team. I'll aim to upload this and I'll hopefully see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you. Thanks, Daniele.
As always, message any feedback, or if you'd like me to move in a different direction, just shoot me through a message. All right?
Thanks,
Take care,
Daniele.
guys.
Thanks so much, Mary.
Bye. See ya.